Cameron noticed it on a Tuesday night. He'd reached over to set his alarm and saw that Rachel's side of the bed looked different. Her phone wasn't on the nightstand where she always kept it. He looked closer and saw the faint glow of the screen beneath her pillow. It was such a small thing, such an insignificant detail, but something about it made him pause. Rachel had never been secretive about her phone. They'd been married for 9 years, and she'd always left it charging on the nightstand, face up, notifications lighting up the room throughout the night. She complained about it herself, said she needed to start leaving it in another room so she could sleep better. But now it was under her pillow, like she was protecting it, or hiding it. Cameron set his own phone down and lay in the darkness, listening to Rachel's breathing. She was already asleep, or pretending to be. He wondered when this had started. How long had she been sleeping with her phone hidden under her pillow without him noticing? He tried to remember the last time he'd seen her phone on the nightstand. A week ago? 2 weeks? He couldn't pinpoint it. That bothered him more than the phone itself. How much had he stopped paying attention? The next morning, Rachel was already in the shower when Cameron woke up. He could hear the water running, hear her humming some song he didn't recognize. He sat up and looked at her pillow. The phone was gone. She must have taken it with her to the bathroom. That was new too. Cameron got up and went downstairs to make coffee. He was pouring his first cup when Rachel appeared, already dressed for work, hair still damp, phone in her hand. "Morning," she said, kissing his cheek quickly. "Morning. You're up early. Big meeting today. I want to get in early and prep." She poured herself coffee in a travel mug, grabbed her keys, and headed for the door. "Love you," she called over her shoulder. "Love you too." The door closed and Cameron stood in the kitchen holding his coffee, feeling like something fundamental had shifted, but he couldn't quite identify what it was. Over the next few days, Cameron started paying closer attention. Not in an obvious way. He didn't ask questions or make accusations. He just observed. Rachel took her phone everywhere. To the bathroom, to the laundry room, to the backyard when she let their dog out. It was always in her hand or her pocket, always within reach. She'd started angling the screen away from him when she used it. Subtle movements, nothing dramatic, but enough that he couldn't see what she was looking at. She'd changed her passcode. Cameron knew this because he'd picked up her phone once when it rang while she was in the shower, intending to bring it to her, and his thumb had automatically entered what he thought was her code. It didn't work. The phone stayed locked. She laughed differently now when she was on her phone. A lighter laugh, younger somehow. The kind of laugh he remembered from when they first started dating, but hadn't heard in years. And every night, the phone went under her pillow. Cameron told himself he was being paranoid. Rachel worked in marketing for a tech company. She was always on her phone for work. The meetings, the emails, the Slack messages that came at all hours. It made sense that she be protective of her phone. It had sensitive work information on it. But work information didn't explain the smile she tried to hide when she was texting. Work information didn't explain why she'd started going to bed later than him, saying she needed to finish up some things, only to come upstairs 20 minutes later with her phone clutched in her hand like a secret. 2 weeks after he first noticed the phone under the pillow, Cameron made a decision. He waited until he was sure Rachel was asleep. Her breathing had that deep, steady rhythm that meant she was really out. He carefully reached under her pillow. His fingers touched the smooth glass of her phone. He pulled out slowly, inch by inch, holding his breath. Rachel didn't stir. The screen lit up when he lifted it. Face ID didn't work in the dark, and he didn't know the new passcode. He was locked out his own wife's phone. He put it back, even more carefully than he'd taken it, and lay in the darkness feeling something he'd never felt in his marriage before. Suspicion. The next morning, Cameron called in sick to work. He wasn't sick, but he needed time to think, time to figure out what he was dealing with. After Rachel left for work, he sat at the kitchen table with his laptop and opened their phone account online. They'd been on the same family plan since they got married. He'd never had a reason to look at the detailed billing before. They had unlimited everything. Why would he care who she called or texted? But now he cared. He logged into the account and pulled up the last 3 months of detailed billing. The PDF was 60 pages long. He started scrolling through the call and text logs. What he found made his stomach drop. There was a number that appeared hundreds of times. Text sent and received at all hours. 2 a.m, during her lunch break, late at night, after she'd come to bed. The pattern was unmistakable. This wasn't work. This was something else. Cameron cross-referenced the number with their contact list, hoping it would be someone he recognized. A co-worker Rachel had mentioned. An old friend. Anyone with an innocent explanation. The number wasn't in their contacts. It wasn't anyone he knew. He grabbed his phone and dialed the number, his heart pounding. It rang 4 times and went to a generic voicemail. You've reached the voicemail of... followed by a phone number. No name. Cameron hung up without leaving a message. He went back to the phone bill and started documenting everything. He created a spreadsheet with dates, times, duration of calls, number of texts. The pattern that emerged was damning. Rachel had exchanged over 3,000 text messages with this number in the past 3 months. She'd called the number 47 times. The calls ranged from a few minutes to over an hour. Most of the activity happened during work hours, but there was plenty late at night too. Texts sent at 11, midnight, 1 in the morning. Times when Rachel was supposedly in bed asleep, but the phone bill showed she was wide awake and messaging someone. Cameron felt sick. He got up from the table and paced the kitchen, trying to make sense of what he'd found, trying to find an innocent explanation. There wasn't one. His wife was having an affair, or, at the very least, an emotional affair with someone she was texting and calling constantly while hiding it from him. He sat back down and stared at the spreadsheet he'd created. 3 months of evidence. 3 months of lies. 3 months of Rachel sleeping with her phone under her pillow while he slept next to her, completely unaware. Cameron picked up his phone and called his brother Marcus. Hey, what's up? Marcus answered, sounding distracted. I need advice. Rachel's having an affair. The distraction disappeared immediately. What? How do you know? Cameron told him everything. The phone under the pillow. The changed passcode. The phone bill with thousands of messages to an unknown number. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. What are you going to do? I don't know. I wanted to call you before I did anything stupid. Are you going to confront her? I don't know. Part of me wants to. Part of me wants more information first. Listen to me carefully, Marcus said, his voice serious. If you're thinking about divorce, don't confront her yet. Get more evidence. Talk to a lawyer. Protect yourself financially. Then confront her when you're in a position of strength, not when you're emotional, and she can manipulate the situation. I don't even know if I want a divorce. I just want to know what's going on. You already know what's going on. She's messaging someone else thousands of times while hiding it from you. That's not a misunderstanding. That's betrayal. Now you need to decide what you're going to do about it. After they hung up, Cameron sat in a quiet house and made a list of his options. Option 1. Confront Rachel immediately. Demand to see her phone. Get an explanation. Option 2. Hire a private investigator. Get proof of what was really happening before making any decisions. Option 3. Do nothing. Pretend he didn't know. Wait and see if Rachel came clean on her own. Option 3 was pathetic, and he knew it. Option 1 was tempting, but risky. If he confronted her without solid proof, she could delete everything and make him look paranoid. Option 2 made the most sense. Cameron called Marcus back. Do you know any private investigators? Yeah. I used one during my divorce. Guy named Frank Dawson. He's good. You want his number? Yeah. Marcus texted him the contact information, and Cameron called immediately. Dawson Investigations, a gruff voice answered. Hi, my name is Cameron Mitchell. My brother Marcus gave me your number. I need to hire you. What's the situation? My wife is having an affair. I have phone records showing thousands of messages to an unknown number, but I need proof of who it is and what's actually happening before I make any decisions. I can help with that. When can you come in to discuss details? Today. Right now if possible. I have an opening at 2. Can you make that? I'll be there. Frank Dawson's office was in a small building downtown, 3rd floor, at the end of a hallway that smelled like old coffee and carpet cleaner. Cameron found the door with Dawson Investigations stenciled on the frosted glass and walked in. Frank was in his late 50s, gray hair, weathered face, eyes that looked like they'd seen everything and weren't impressed by any of it. He gestured to a chair across from his desk. Tell me everything, Frank said, pulling out a notepad. Cameron told him about the phone under the pillow, the changed passcode, the phone bill with thousands of messages. He'd brought printouts of the phone records and slid them across the desk. Frank studied them carefully, making notes as he read. When he finished, he looked up at Cameron. This is pretty clear evidence of an ongoing affair. The question is whether you want to know who it is and get visual proof, or if this is enough for you to make a decision. I need to know everything. Who he is, how long it's really been going on, where they meet. Everything. That's going to require surveillance. Following your wife, documenting where she goes and who she meets. Are you prepared for what we might find? I'm prepared. Some people say that, but they're not. They want to know, but they don't want to see it. Photographs of your wife with another man can't be unseen. I understand. Frank nodded. Okay. I'll need some information. Your wife's daily routine, where she works, what she drives, recent photos. And I'll need a retainer. They spent the next hour going over details. Cameron provided everything Frank asked for. When they were done, Frank walked him to the door. Give me a week, Frank said. I'll start surveillance tomorrow. I'll send you daily updates. And Cameron. Yeah. Don't change her behavior at home. Act completely normal. The more comfortable she feels, the sloppier she'll get. Cameron drove home in a daze. He was actually doing this. He'd hired someone to follow his wife, to document her affair, to gather evidence for a divorce he hadn't even decided he wanted yet. But what choice did he have? He couldn't live with the suspicion. Couldn't pretend he didn't notice the phone under the pillow or the thousands of secret messages. He needed to know the truth, whatever it was. Rachel came home that evening in a good mood. She was humming again, that same unfamiliar song. She kissed Cameron hello and started making dinner, her phone sitting on the counter next to her, screen down. How was your day? She asked, chopping vegetables. Fine. Quiet. How was yours? Busy. We're launching a new campaign next month, and everyone's stressed. Sounds rough. She smiled at him. It is, but it's good stress. I like being busy. They ate dinner together, talking about nothing important. Rachel's phone buzzed twice during the meal, but she ignored it. Cameron noticed the way her eyes flicked to the screen each time, the way her smile got a little wider, even though she didn't pick it up. After dinner, she said she had some work to finish and took her laptop to the living room. Cameron cleaned up the kitchen, loaded the dishwasher, and tried not to think about who was texting her. Around 10, Rachel came upstairs. I'm going to bed. You coming? In a bit. I want to finish this article. Okay. Don't stay up too late. She kissed the top of his head and went into their bedroom. 10 minutes later, Cameron went up too. Rachel was already in bed, phone glowing under her pillow, typing something with a small smile on her face. Who are you texting? Cameron asked casually, getting into bed. Just Amanda from work. She's freaking out about the presentation tomorrow. At 10:30 at night, Rachel's smile flickered. She's a night owl. Cameron nodded and picked up his book. Rachel finished her text, put the phone under her pillow, and turned off the lamp on her side. Night, she said. Night. Cameron pretended to read for another 20 minutes. When he was sure Rachel was asleep, he carefully reached under her pillow. The phone was still there, still warm from recent use. He pulled it out and tried to see the screen. It was locked, of course. He put it back and lay in the darkness wondering who Amanda really was. The next morning, Frank sent his first update. Day 1. Subject left for work at 7:45 a.m. Arrived at office at 8:10. Left office at 5:30 p.m. Stopped at grocery store, purchased items. Arrived home at 6:15 p.m. No contact with anyone suspicious. Will continue surveillance. Day 2 was similar. Rachel went to work, came home, no meetings with anyone. Cameron started to wonder if he was wrong. If maybe the texts really were just work-related and he was being paranoid. Then day 3 happened. Frank's update came at 2:47 p.m. Subject left office at 2:15 p.m. Drove to Riverside Hotel. Met a man in the parking lot. They entered the hotel together. I have photographs. They checked into room 412. Still inside as of this message. We'll update when they leave. Cameron read the message 3 times, his hand shaking. There it was. Proof. Not just texts and phone calls, but an actual meeting at a hotel in the middle of the day. The next message came at 4:03 p.m. Subject and male companion left hotel at 3:55 p.m. They kissed in the parking lot before separating. Subject returned to office. Male drove away in a black Mercedes. License plate documented. Running plates now. At 4:30, Frank called. I have a positive ID on the man, Frank said. His name is Julian Cross. He's 38, works as a financial consultant. According to public records, he's single, never been married. How long do you think this has been going on? Based on the phone records you showed me and what I observed today, at least 3 months. Probably longer. They were very comfortable with each other. This wasn't a first meeting. Cameron felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. What do I do now? That's up to you. I can continue surveillance, get more documentation, or you can take what you have to a divorce attorney and proceed from there. Give me more documentation. I want a complete picture before I make any decisions. Understood. Over the next 4 days, Frank documented everything. Rachel met Julian 3 more times that week. Twice at the Riverside Hotel, once at an upscale restaurant across town. Frank got photographs of them holding hands, kissing, going into hotel rooms together. Each update felt like another knife in Cameron's chest, but he forced himself to read every word, look at every photo. He needed to see the truth, no matter how much it hurt. On day 7, Frank sent a final report, a comprehensive document with photographs, timestamps, license plate records, everything documented in excruciating detail. Cameron sat at his kitchen table and read through the entire thing. When he finished, he called a divorce attorney. Her name was Lisa Chun. She came highly recommended by Marcus's lawyer. Cameron met with her the next morning, bringing Frank's complete report. Lisa reviewed everything methodically, making notes as she read. When she finished, she looked at Cameron with professional sympathy. This is very thorough documentation. With this evidence, you're in a strong position. She won't be able to deny the affair or claim she deserves more than she's entitled to. What happens next? I'll draft the divorce petition. We'll file it and have her served. Given the documented infidelity, we can likely get you a favorable settlement. How do you want to handle assets? We own a house together. I want to keep it. I bought it with money from an inheritance before we got married, but her name is on the deed. We can argue for you to keep the house based on the inheritance and the adultery. What about other assets? We have joint savings, about $40,000. Retirement accounts in both our names. 2 cars, both paid off. Lisa made notes. I'll petition for a division that favors you given the circumstances. With this evidence, most judges would be sympathetic to your position. When will she be served? I can file tomorrow and have her served by end of week. Do you want to tell her first, or let the papers be a surprise? Cameron thought about all the times Rachel had lied to him. All the times she'd hidden her phone, deleted messages, pretended to be texting Amanda from work while actually coordinating hotel meetings with Julian. Let it be a surprise, he said. Lisa nodded. One piece of advice. Between now and when she's served, act completely normal. Don't let on that anything has changed. The element of surprise will work in your favor. Cameron went home and did exactly that. He acted normal. He made dinner. He asked about Rachel's day. He pretended not to notice when her phone buzzed, and she smiled that secret smile. That night, Rachel came to bed late again. Cameron was already lying there, pretending to read. She slipped her phone under her pillow and settled in next to him. You're up late, he said. Couldn't sleep. Too much on my mind. Work stuff. Yeah, just work stuff. She turned off her lamp and rolled over. Within minutes, her breathing deepened into sleep. Cameron lay awake for hours, knowing this was one of the last nights he'd spend in this bed with her. Knowing that in a few days, everything would change. The divorce papers were filed on Thursday. Rachel was served on Friday at her office. Cameron knew exactly when it happened because she called him immediately, her voice high and panicked. Cameron, what is this? I just got served with divorce papers at work. In front of everyone. I'm divorcing you. What? Why? We need to talk about this. You can't just. I know about Julian. Silence. I know about the hotel. I know about the restaurant. I know about every text message, every phone call, every lie you've told for the past 3 months. I have photographs, Rachel. I have everything. He heard her breathing change. How did you have me followed? You've been sleeping with your phone under your pillow for weeks. You changed your passcode. You're constantly texting someone. What did you expect me to do? I can explain. It's not what you think. Julian and I are just what? Just meeting at hotels in the middle of the day? Just kissing in parking lots? Just having an affair while you come home and lie to my face? Cameron, please. Let me come home. Let's talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. My lawyer will be in touch with yours. Don't come back to the house. That's my house too. We'll let the lawyers sort that out. Goodbye, Rachel. He hung up before she could respond. His phone rang immediately. He declined the call. It rang again. He turned it off. 20 minutes later, there was pounding on the front door. Cameron looked through the window and saw Rachel's car in the driveway. He didn't answer. Cameron, Open the door. We need to talk about this. He went upstairs to the guest bedroom and closed the door. Eventually, the pounding stopped. He heard her car start and drive away. That night, Cameron slept in the master bedroom alone for the first time in 9 years. He kept his phone on the nightstand, face up, nothing to hide. The next few weeks were brutal. Rachel's lawyer tried every angle to contest the divorce, to get more money, to keep the house. But Lisa shut down every argument with the evidence Frank had gathered. The photographs of Rachel and Julian at the hotel were particularly damaging. Rachel's lawyer tried to claim they were doctored, but the timestamps, the location data, the matching phone records all corroborated what the photos showed. Rachel tried reaching out to Cameron directly multiple times. Phone calls, emails, texts begging to talk. He ignored all of them and forwarded everything to Lisa. One email particularly stood out. Cameron, please. I made a mistake. Julian means nothing to me. It was just excitement. Something new. I still love you. We can work through this. Please don't throw away 9 years over one mistake. Please. Cameron read it twice and then deleted it. One mistake. She'd met Julian dozens of times over 3 months. That wasn't a mistake. That was a choice she made over and over again. 6 weeks after filing, they reached a settlement. Rachel agreed to sign away her claim to the house in exchange for half the savings and her car. Cameron kept his retirement accounts. No alimony, no ongoing support. The divorce was finalized 3 months after Cameron first noticed Rachel sleeping with her phone under her pillow. 3 months from suspicion to dissolution. It felt both too fast and excruciatingly slow. Cameron heard through mutual friends that Rachel and Julian tried to make a real relationship work after the divorce, but it fell apart within 2 months. Apparently, the affair lost its appeal when it stopped being a secret. He didn't care. She was part of a past he was actively leaving behind. 4 months after the divorce, Cameron was at a coffee shop when a woman accidentally knocked over his cup while reaching for extra napkins. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she said, horrified, as coffee spread across the table. "It's okay," Cameron said, grabbing napkins to clean it up. "No big deal. Let me buy you another one. Please. I feel terrible." Her name was Sophie. She was a veterinary technician at a clinic nearby. They ended up talking for an hour after she bought him a replacement coffee. She was warm, funny, direct in a way that felt refreshing. When it was time to leave, she asked for his number. "I don't usually do this," she said, looking slightly embarrassed. "But would you want to get dinner sometime?" Cameron smiled. "I'd like that." On their third date, Sophie asked about his previous relationships. "I was married," Cameron said. "It ended about 6 months ago. Can I ask what happened?" "She had an affair. I found out through her phone bill and hired a private investigator to get proof." Sophie's eyes widened. "Seriously?" "Yeah. She started sleeping with her phone under her pillow, changed her passcode, was constantly texting someone. I checked her phone records and found thousands of messages to a number I didn't recognize." "What did you do?" "I documented everything and hired a PI to follow her. He caught her meeting a guy at hotels during work hours. I filed for divorce and had her served before she knew I knew." Sophie nodded slowly. "That must have been really hard." "It was. But I'm glad I found out when I did instead of wasting more years on someone who'd already checked out of the marriage. I respect that you didn't ignore the signs. A lot of people would have just convinced themselves they were being paranoid. I almost did. But something my brother said stuck with me. He said I already knew the truth. I was just afraid to face it. He was right. They dated for 1.5 years before moving in together. Sophie never hid her phone. Never changed her passcode to something Cameron didn't know. Never took calls in other rooms or angled her screen away when he was nearby. It was such a relief to be with someone who had nothing to hide. 2 years after his divorce, Cameron proposed to Sophie on a hiking trail they both loved. She said yes without hesitation. They got married in a small ceremony with close friends and family. Cameron's brother Marcus was his best man. During his toast, Marcus said something that made Cameron's eyes sting. "I've watched my brother go through hell and come out the other side stronger." He could have let Rachel's betrayal make him bitter and closed off. Instead, he faced the truth, dealt with it head on, and opened himself up to finding real love. That takes courage. Cameron looked at Sophie, sitting next to him with tears in her eyes and a smile on her face, and felt grateful for that Tuesday night months ago when he noticed Rachel's phone under her pillow. That small observation had set everything in motion, had led him to the phone bill, to Frank, to the divorce, to this moment with someone who valued him enough to be honest. 3 years after his divorce, Cameron ran into Rachel at a grocery store. She was alone, pushing a cart with mostly frozen meals and wine. "Cameron," she said, looking startled. "Rachel, how are you?" "I'm okay." "You?" "I'm good. Really good." She looked at his left hand and saw the wedding ring. "I heard you got remarried. Congratulations." "Thank you." There was an awkward pause. Then Rachel said, "I'm sorry. For everything. I know I said it in emails you probably didn't read, but I mean it. You didn't deserve what I did." Cameron studied her face. She looked tired, older than she should at 35. The brightness she'd had when she was texting Julian was gone, replaced by something that looked like regret. "I appreciate that," he said. "Julian and I didn't work out. Turns out an affair is exciting, but a relationship is hard work. I learned that too late." Cameron felt a distant kind of sympathy, but nothing more. "I hope you find what you're looking for." "I think I already had it, and threw it away," she said quietly. He didn't know what to say to that, so he just nodded. "Take care of yourself, Rachel." He walked away and found Sophie waiting for him at the end of the aisle. She took his hand without asking questions. "You okay?" she asked when they got to the car. "Yeah, I'm fine. She's just part of my past now. You're my present and my future." Sophie smiled and kissed him. Good answer. That night, lying in bed next to Sophie, Cameron thought about how different his life was now. How he'd gone from lying awake, wondering who Rachel was texting, to sleeping peacefully next to someone who had no secrets. Sophie's phone was on her nightstand, face up, notifications lighting up the room occasionally. It didn't bother Cameron at all, because he knew if he picked it up and looked, he wouldn't find thousands of messages to his secret number. He wouldn't find evidence of hotels and lies and a parallel life. He'd find exactly what Sophie showed him every day. Honesty, transparency, love. Rachel had started sleeping with her phone under her pillow. So Cameron had checked the phone bill and found the truth. And that truth, as painful as it was, had led him here. To a marriage built on trust instead of suspicion. To a partner who didn't need to hide anything because she had nothing to hide. The phone under the pillow had been the first sign. The phone bill had been the evidence. But the real lesson was simpler than that. When someone shows you who they are through their actions, believe them. Rachel had shown him she was someone who would lie, hide, and betray. Sophie had shown him she was someone who would communicate, commit, and be present. He believed both of them, and that belief had made all the difference.